Okay, excellent. Randy, can you swear in there?
Oh, wait, you got it right here? Okay, there's one.
All right. First item on the agenda is Dennis and Carla Collins, Garden Ventures, requesting a lot split on property located at 33490 Morse Avenue. So CT has reviewed it. So, Director, will you tell us what you want to do?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's simple. We're just, turning the lots back to their original lot split. Way back many years ago, they were all combined, and we're just wanting to put them back to their original split.
Okay. Question at Tom, on one of this applications I have, it says it wasn't approved. So
yeah,
that
it originally wasn't approved because the chief surveyor questioned the point at the beginning of the survey. The petitioner provided some additional information. We went back and looked and said there's no reason that this can't split back to what it was. So we changed from not approved to approved as noted. The approved as noted is simply for the reason that the signature on the plat is very much different from the signature on the description that stands, and that's the only reason it has noted. Other than that, there's no issue with the split.
anybody have any questions?
Are those buildable lots, 40 feet?
They are.
That's the only question I have. Okay, any other questions? Okay, good. We'll make a motion, please.
I'll make a motion to approve lot as described.
Mike did.
Okay, roll call. Mr. Lucio?
Yes.
Ms. Lezenga?
Yes.
Mr. Summer?
Yes.
Mayor Worley?
Yes.
Mr. Weaver?
Yes. So the lot split has been approved. So congratulations. Good luck with those.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item from all business is the MC2P LLC, Ryan Stokes, the applicant, requesting to open a new business for the medical marijuana processing facility located at 34099 Lynn Parkway, Weaver County. And this is the second look at this. Ryan? Yeah, welcome.
Thank you. If you want me to summarize what we talked about the last time, or you wanted to?
Yeah, if you would, I wasn't able to make it. I apologize. I did read the minutes.
Sure. So what we're requesting is to open up what they call the processing, medical marijuana processing plant. In the cannabis industry, in the medical industry, there are three components. There's the grow, like Buckeye Relief, that grows the plant. And then there's a processor like ourselves who takes that plant material, puts it through extraction equipment that's closed loop, CO2 as an example, and it pushes the ingredients used to make medical marijuana out of the plant and into a liquid form. And then we take that and we infuse it into products that are either edible or depository patches, those types of things.
Okay, and I recall from some of the things I read before from the minutes, obviously security is a big issue. Environmental issues that are any sort of number of different questions that I have to start. First of all, do you have any environmental issues within the facility that may come out of the facility?
No.
So the oils and the gas that are generated, you have self-containment, so you have machinery that filters it and processes it.
Yeah, so it's a closed system, so the CO2 that's used gets regenerated and put back into the tank. So there's nothing wrong with the sewers or anything like that.
Okay. So security, well, a couple of different things. So security is a big issue. And, I did read some of the state requirements for security. Can you explain, and if you did before, I apologize, but in better detail as far as what the security measures are for the facility? Because you're in a business park. I did talk to you, Andrew, the other day. Because at first, I wasn't sure if you had to be in a standalone segregated facility or not. You don't have to be, but you are in a continuous facility, so security is paramount. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, so, there were 160 applicants for the license for processing. Of those, 40 got awarded, and a major focus was on security. The state who runs the program, has done studies about what is required from a security perspective. So, we met that standard, to make the cut. Which says something about, the thought that went into it. In reference to the building that we're in, the buildings and the properties that, or the units, I should say, that are next to us, on either side of us, it's masonry block all the way up to the ceiling. So there's very difficult penetration to get from their office into our office, as an example. The security systems that are required, we have multiple systems. So if one fails, there's another one as a backup. And then there's many surveillance cameras in the facility. And if you've had a chance to go out to Buckeye Relief, you'll see they're all over. Very similar, stringent security requirements for us also. And as you know, Buckeye Relief is a processor also, so they grow it and they process it. There are a number of checkpoints, so they call it circles of security. So the first security is outside surveillance with cameras, and then secure doors with keypads, and you either have to scan it with a card and then key it, or you do a biometric where you do the same thing, you scan it. We have a scan in our plan. If you've gone through our security plan, it's listed in there, so it's extremely difficult to get around. So let's just say someone broke the glass and got in. There are breaking glass sounds that would pick that up and trigger an alarm right away. And there are motion detectors throughout the whole building. It's in that diagram that was supplied, and you can see those circles. And then there's cameras in each room except for the bathroom. That's the only place where there are. And what we've done is we've also put into the drywall steel wire security, so that if someone wants to get in, and all those things I just mentioned fail, right, which is very low probability that happens, they have to have some pretty heavy equipment to break through the drywall to get to the area that is then secured with the product, and that's secured by a DEA-approved vault. That is cement with rebar reinforced, cameras inside, sound detection inside, and it's got if you read the DEA requirements, it's the same thing for Schedule 1 events that they use. And it's supposed to resist, and Jim probably talked to Jim Stewart, the security guy there. He talked to him better than I can, but it's supposed to be able to sustain power tools for X number of hours. So there's a lot of work to get into where the ingredients are that we would keep. And every process and procedure is when you take the plant from the transport, you put it into the vault, and it stays there. During the day, when you take the plant material out, which is in bags, and you put it into the machine that pushes through with CO2 and pushes out the ingredients, the oil that is put into a jar that's used to infuse then goes back into the safe until you're ready to infuse it. Any product that you make goes into the safe. So everything is in that vault, and it's a very secure situation.
So you also have a trim vault, and you have two vault on this. You have a trim vault, and then you have the vault on the side of the building. The trim vault looks like it's the back of the building.
The vault is, the actual vault is in the back of the building. The trim vault is just during the day, when you bring the material out, you put it into the trim vault, so it's absolute. And then you use it, what you take from the trim vault, put it back into the trim vault.
Nothing that stays there.
Nothing.
All right, so all the materials that you use, ultimately, nothing's on the floor, off hours, it's all in the vault.
Correct.
Okay, now, on the front of the building, you have a glass door, and there's windows where the offices are. Okay. What type of materials in the glass that will help prevent someone or deter them from just breaking the glass and get in? Right. The strengthening of the glass, a different type of glass.
I don't know which building has it right now. We have regular, Andrew came out and toured the place and gave us his input on security aspects. And one of the things we could do is we could either put a film over the glass that you can see through, but when you hit it, it's like your car windshield, it doesn't scatter. We could do that, or we could put the wire mesh in there, and we decided to go with the wire mesh. So there's nothing special about the glass that I'm aware of.
Okay, but that'll strengthen it so that it makes it less opportune for someone to get in.
Correct.
Right? And then you got a glass door. Then what about your dock door in the back? What are you doing to secure that?
Yeah, so great question. You said your homework here.
Well, I was in that business. So.
Okay, well, there you go. I don't know if it's the right word, ballast or ballast.
Ballast.
What is it?
Ballast.
Ballast. Yeah, thank you. So, ballards, what we plan to do is put removable ballards on the inside, 2 of them, so that if they do grab that, they're going to hit that and won't be able to get it.
Okay, so we butt it up really close to the door so that,
Right.
because a lot of people can just jack in the back bottom panel, push it out, and slide in through there. I've seen that happen time and time again.
Right.
So your security will deter that, and it doesn't sound like they'll be able to break in that dock door.
Sure.
Is that correct? Mm-hmm. And then the dock doors are all going to be, the dock door will be wired and censored.
Correct.
Do you only have 1 dock door or 2?
Just one.
Now, when you come in the entrance, so the office is broken up to get into the processing plant, correct?
That's right.
So you have the offices come straight along the front of the building,
Right.
and then do you have a barrier that goes from the office into the plant?
Correct.
And that's when you talk about the drywall, et cetera.
That's correct. Yeah. There's a drawing there that should show red lines as to where the regulator went, the wire. You got a black color. Copy.
Yes.
Are you gonna have for each room, like, I had the card in each room to open?
Yes.
So it's not gonna be that you can just go in each room, you have to have your card swipe to show you can go in.
Yeah, so there's different levels of status for each person that's there. The operations manager can get into all of the key areas, right, because of that card. But someone who is doing edibles, as an example, won't be able to get into the safe area, won't be able to get into extraction area, that type of thing. So there's.
And are you gonna, like, now, every time that I go to Buckeye or anyone else goes to Buckeye, even if they're a visitor, they have to swipe the card, that's gonna do the same stuff.
Absolutely, that tracks everybody where you're at all times. Yeah, it's all logged and they have cameras, they can look at 24/7, live cameras, they can check it out anytime they want.
How many cameras do you have in the facility?
You remember, Jim?
Quick glance at it, the sheet is looking at, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, almost 40 cameras. On hallway, 10 cameras, and 3 cameras.
And quick question on the windows, I went around there again today, the back windows that are towards the residence homes, I think still, I mean, I want you to look at those and make those sure that those are more secure, because those, some of them are actually at eye level where someone could break and just hop in. I know it's running, probably easier to do that, but and again, I looked at the diagrams until I walked through and see where things are set up. I think that's something that you guys should look at, with the security also.
So when the state came down and looked at the facility, there morning, we did point that out, they pointed that out, and so, we were putting steel bars in there. If you looked at the units next to them, they also have steel bars in there.
And then the chief had one question, I know Tommy had to talk to chief about them. Are your dumpsters gonna be inside? You're not gonna have any outside dumpsters at all?
Correct.
I think it was a dumpster plant in or something.
There was, yeah, and it's inside, and it's also locked when it's inside.
Yeah, I drove the area with the chief too, and that's a couple of questions we had. Talked to Andrew about setbacks from, because obviously the setbacks in the building are good for our residents now. I didn't know if there was any larger setbacks, compared to the others. Again, the difference in this, and I think a lot more questions this time, is because obviously Buckeye standalone, fenced in around there, and really nothing else around it. Here, you know, we have the neighbors are like obviously right behind the dock. 337, they're not saying anything could happen, but, you know, someone would come off 337, go back, have a car waiting that, you know, we're trying, again, and we did our due diligence on Buckeye for safety for the neighborhood, and I think that's what we still want to hear, so.
Sure.
That's why, and the rest of the group is all about whole safety.
Yep, makes sense.
Yeah, that's paramount, obviously.
There's a section called secure waste area in the plans there.
Yeah, and with the, so this ordinance 7707, where it talks about security policy and access control, that's what you were referring to before about with the barriers, and porters, and concentric circles, all that. So that's all adhered to in your security plan.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's part of why we scored so high, on our application.
Do you have any plans for physical security, right? So I certainly appreciate the redundancy in the system, right? But what about externally? Given that it is not fenced in and your employees will be obviously coming and going, do you have any plans for physical security to ensure that your employees get into the building safely, that no one is following them, et cetera?
So there's a procedure, that we follow, so the person that opens it's part of the process and procedures that we submit to the state, does a visual check around the building, plus, the equipment that we're using, you can use remotes to look at from home, all the cameras and what's going on there. So the process is to check the surrounding areas before you go in, and then you can go in. As far as, having a person there, we can have a person there after hours if it's necessary, if the city feels it's necessary. The security is pretty good, so instantaneously we can set it to go off if something happens. So it's, you know, it's really up to the city if they want us to have something like that.
What is that, for your house?
9 to 6, 7 days a week.
So much, I mean,
Again, not just one. I think in the beginning, at least for our comfort level, that we have someone on site, especially through the night, and then something changes, and again, we don't see any issues. I mean, then you can take a look at that. Again, we don't want to have to, you know, spend money, don't need to, but at the end of the day, we want the neighborhood and our residents to feel comfortable. Again, like I said to someone today, if, you know, no one, you know, though they rushed the Capitol a couple weeks ago, they could never get into Buckeye. I know that for a fact, so, I mean, their security is top notch, and regardless if they know me, you know, when I get there, I usually go through every procedure on there. And I think that's a big thing that we've all talked about before. I think Holly brought it up at the last meeting, and Tom's bringing it up now, about safety. So, I mean, I would suggest that we have a live person there after hours for a while, or maybe permanently, just so we can see what's going on. Because obviously it's a different area, and again, it's like Buckeye. Most people don't even know what's back there. I doubt if you'll have a lot of advertising that you're there, so there may not be an issue, but we all obviously want to be overprotective and underprotective, or instead of reactive, actively ahead of the game. So I understand what you're saying, if someone can see it, and someone can see the camera, then obviously it'll be dispatched or police, but at the end of the day, if someone's there, that gets worse, you know.
So maybe, I don't know if I'm understanding how to exactly, but if you're a low employee coming in on a Saturday, what's the security makes that one employee hasn't been followed by somebody who's trying to get in?
Exactly.
Is there ever a day when one employee is gonna show up? You know what I'm saying?
No, not that we plan to, but, so they have access, or we can give them access to the same scenario. So whoever it is that opens up, it would be the operations manager, would be there on a daily basis, and they would have to open up. But just to close the loop on Mayor Morley's, so we will absolutely do that if that's what the city feels is necessary for the company. We can certainly have somebody there after hours to do that. We won't have any signage. So people won't know what we're doing. We have no public coming there. The only people that come there are garbage transportation to pick up our product to bring it to the dispensary. And then to answer your question, there is, well, first of all, if there's somebody in the parking lot, if you look through the plan, it does talk about training our staff to look for those kinds of things. And if there's something suspicious, they won't go in. They'll just call security and say, look, there's somebody out here that we don't recognize. There's only, I think, three other businesses there today that I'm aware of. And right where we're at, there's nobody on either side of us. So we would be able to see if somebody's parked there. But if they got out, remember to get in, you have to have that hand. And now once you get in, if you look at the entrances, there's man traps, just like that, right? One door opens, the other door shuts, and both can out of them at the same time. So, if someone tries to get in, they're not going to be able to get in because they don't have the enhancement thing, but if they do get in, they're trapped in that man trap there. I mean, it happens, right? I mean, it's always a possibility, but there's measures in place that hopefully, determine.
Right? Can I answer?
Absolutely, go ahead.
So, I had experience with a couple of banks and credit unions, jewelry stores, a bunch of shops, security. And I got this experience, my wife was a teller at a bank 10 or 15 years ago. And, one day I dropped her off to work, I saw the light flash on, I'm like, what's that? Well, the way we had it all set up, the first person opens the bank goes inside. And if there's no problems, no second person outside can't come in until the first person flashes the light. Pretty simple process, but it works very well. So the person outside can see a light flash, they call the police. It's simple and it works, and banks do it all the time. That's something that we have to do. Plus, that second person who comes there, and the first person who comes in, doesn't see a flash or does. They have their phone, and they can view all the cameras remote live from any smart device. So it's real simple to do a simple work inside the building for anyone.
I want to express that my concern with it is that it's already a facility that is not going to be fenced in, right, which is the original recommendation from the state, and I understand we worked with them to get an exception, right? But my concern is, first of all, the location isn't far from the highway, anything is possible. So I appreciate the redundancy in the building, I think that's important. I do have a question about the redundancy in the building, but I do think it's also important to think about the physical aspect. You can't necessarily be certain that someone isn't being followed, so I think that same example is a very good one. At the same time, I would like to at least have some assurance that, whether you have two people going in, you have some backup for your people. It is a different type of business, and there's a lot of information out on the internet for people to explore and try to understand. And sadly, people take extreme methodologies today to break into businesses. So I think that it's not just the building itself, your people. It's not fenced in, so they're going to walk up to a door. Someone can come out of nowhere, and they may not be prepared for that.
So, the state does not require a fence for processors. It requires a fence for growers, like Buckeye. The reason we had it in our application originally was we were looking at another location that we had control of, and we were going to put a fence around it just as a minor security, just as an additional security. But when you put something in your application, if you end up not doing it, in this case, because of the landlord and the location and so forth, you have to ask for variance. So we weren't trying to get out of a fence. We were just trying to make it appropriate for the situation that we're in now.
Yeah, and I understand. We talked about that the last I know that one of the email threads indicated that we received a copy of the letter. I didn't see that as part of the attachment, that there was a letter from the Commerce Department indicating that that wasn't necessary. But Dennis, do we have a copy of that?
Yeah, let me see if I can pull it up now. Is it incredibly burdensome to have certificates to people open up?
No, it's not, I mean, that's the plan.
That might solve the issue, but there's open up and close, two people come in, two people go out.
Yeah, that is the plan, but, the question was asked, if one person showed up, how would you handle it? But
I did that.
I just responded.
Yeah, thank you, Randy.
Yeah, I screwed it up.
No, but I appreciate that, because I understand that. I hope you understand. It's a precaution for people, for the city, that are going beyond just what's within the building. And as it pertains to the building, from a redundancy perspective, and I know Severs is here, I was going to make an assumption that you would not advertise that Severs is the firm that you're using outside of that facility. I say that from a cyber perspective, so that now you don't feel the target, right? Is Severs the only, firm that you're going to be using? I think you mentioned last time that there were going to be two types of monitoring. One, I believe, is the state, and then one is from Severs. So it's two separate systems, so then in the event that one fails, you would always have that redundancy, correct?
Right.
Oh, there's two transition formations, you can fill it anywhere. So right now, it's holding the internet, it's the primary source, it's always pulling our conversations, we get on ourselves, we know when it goes offline. And the second one is cellular. And cellular, we know that offline for 59 minutes, so we'll tell them that state tracks themselves with a bit more expensive. Anyway, so if the internet goes down, then the cellular takes the back right away, but the internet is, it's like all internet, right? All the phone, so you know they're talking to real time. So that was the two transitions I was talking about in your quote. So it's giving itself capable of multiple transitions on there. And but they are having two people in, two people open, two people close.
Yeah, there'll actually be three, skeleton, staff that's with you, you know.
Sorry. Screw everything up.
Sorry about the redundancy, but it's gonna probably happen for a while, because as all of us, we're just trying to be extra precautious. It's a new thing for us, I'm sure across the state of Ohio as well, but getting into this same line of questioning as far as the security, this building appears to have a drive completely surrounding it, correct? So there's a fence along the property lines going where the residents are?
Correct.
And how high is that fence, you know?
I think it's 6 foot, but I'm not sure.
So it's an easy fence to find. What is this, and I know, you know, we have all the security, you're not advertising, but we know criminals are pretty smart people. So what's to prevent them from being outside your zone and bull rushing the guy that's either delivering or picking up the product we delivered out in these, what appear to be almost alleyways, and not trap someone in that area?
Yep, so the drivers are, actually armed. They have mobile cameras on the van. They have to report to the state before they leave, let's say Buckeye Relief, if we buy our product from Buckeye Relief, they have to report to the state that they're leaving Buckeye Relief at this time, and that they plan to arrive at our place at this time. And when they get there 5 minutes before, they actually let them know 5 minutes away. So those cameras are always going on. And the process is that, you know, they're trained to look for those kinds of things, and they're gonna pull in to our environment to do that now.
Right.
And then they'll move.
But they still have to come out.
They still have to come out, yeah.
That's for shipping and receiving their armed guards.
Yes. It'd be the same setup, like I guess.
I have a question in regards to this. I just noticed that this indicates that please note that this approval does not extend to internal security measures, access control, security devices, all. It is my understanding that the security plan variances will be submitted at a later date, and I apologize if I missed this previously. Are there security plan variances with the internal facility as well?
No, so what he's referring to is we have what's called a, provisional license. When you win a license, they quote you as a provisional license, and to get an operational license, they have to come out and look at your plan and say, did you do everything that you put in your plan? And if you did, then you get your operational license, and that's what he's referring to. What he's trying to say is, we didn't tell you that you're ready for operation. That's what he's saying.
The state will have to come out and approve them. I mean, they can do all this stuff and they can come out, we'll say you're not operating.
And you will get copies of that and then?
Yeah, what usually will happen is the state, fire marshal will come in, meet with our fire marshal, we'll talk to the chiefs, and they'll go, they have their checklist like everything else, so, and then we will get copies of whatever we need.
Okay. Thank you.
So one more question.
Sure.
You planning, reinforcing all accessible windows?
I don't plan because we're putting just the ones in the back. The ones in the front, are being protected with that steel mesh.
So that's reinforcing.
You got it. Okay.
Thank you. I I've covered pretty much everything that I want to cover. I guess, that's the fact that the state has to approve all the security, has to come in and stamp it, is pretty critical. And I think, obviously, and you do know that, the safety measures and security is absolutely critical, especially for the neighbors around the area. You know, nobody wants anything to happen. But, there are no guarantees in life.
Correct.
Anybody else have any questions?
So the security plan and everything entails, you know, it's a physical property of it and everything, but is there like background checks or anything for the employees that they need to go through, or?
That's a good question. Yeah, so, all of us have been background checked, fingerprinted, federal background check, and state and local background check. We had to do that in order to qualify for the application. Now, some people submitted applications and didn't get that, and so their applications were thrown out. So anybody who's working here, has already been checked out by the state. And fingerprinted.
And future employees are they
Before,
background checks?
yeah, before we can hire them, they got to do background check and fingerprinted, and approved by the state.
Is that part of the state requirement?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Is there anybody here to speak against this? I'm supposed to ask that, so. Can I have a motion?
Would be a motion to approve the application and send it back to the state.
I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, it would be a motion to approve it and send it back to the state director.
I would make that motion, yes, allow that to go.
I'll second.
I do have a quick question. This is for a CUP, correct?
No, this is for the approval of their,
Oh, just approve.
this is approval of their medical marijuana license. So the process is they fill out the application, it goes to the safety director, submit to you guys,
And yes.
hear it, send it back to the safety director, and then there's a appeal process after that.
Okay, okay.
It's an M2, so as far as the zoning goes, it's light industrial, agricultural, you know, kind of high cut.
Yeah, at one point I saw it was a CUP, that's why.
Maybe they just have the gas on it.
Okay. Sorry about that. We have to do a roll call.
Yeah, we have.
You got a second? Nick?
Okay,
Mike made a second, okay, thanks.
I'll make
Okay, so that's all.
yeah, Holly, seconded, right?
Correct.
Okay, Mr. Summit?
Yes.
Ms. Lozano?
Yes.
Mr. Rosatino?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
And Mr. Lukart?
Yes, and we don't have to put into this contingent bond, goes back to you.
Why don't you go back to me and then we'll have him here about first and talk about
Definitely not against it, just very cautious.
Yeah.
That's very much.
I really don't want any businesses here, but
They don't have,
it is new for us.
they don't have hours.
I understand, yeah.
Well, I think I said this before, and again, obviously the first is different, but we worked on Hawkeye for almost 2 years. So this is pretty quick, obviously, compared to that, so we had hours and hours of meetings among the law directors, chiefs, and everyone before we even went to planning, and so I just want to know that. Yeah, Hawkeye took us 2 years to get, and obviously the city did all the ordinances, because all the ordinances go everywhere else now, and whoever got from the city of Eastlake, since we were the first to approve anything in the industry, all the cities, everyone has started adding it, and we've all sent our ordinances, so we're all basically, they're all gone off our ordinances, so, but yeah, it's just, again, this is, and like I always told Buckeye from the beginning, we just want the safety of our residents, want the safety of their employees, and obviously we want them all to do well.
Well, yeah, and you got Dr. That's involved too.
Yeah, absolutely, he is,
That's right.
Okay, so that's, work is your work.
thank you very much, I appreciate the due diligence, that you did.
Oh, that's
I called Andrew, he gave me a call yesterday and said that he called me.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the due diligence, but yours is done. Good. The city should feel safe with you guys. What is that stuff? I'm really not clear on what.
Now, I think you handed in your plans to building, so building will now send them over to CT.
Okay.
And then whatever markings, whatever they find out they need to change or any issues, they'll send it back. Through building, Carol will get a hold of you when it's ready for the plans to be, when the plans are approved,
Okay.
basically, right?
And then once plans are approved, then we can actually
Then you
start.
can start pulling your permits to do everything, whatever, electrical, anything you have to do that. And Carolyn will walk you through that. And then, and obviously our CBO, if they comes in and inspect, our fire marshal will be over there, doing their inspection as the process goes. The Carolyn will just tell you, what you need and when you need inspected. Your contractors will call buildings to set up their inspections as they're going.
Okay.
And obviously, any contractor that you're gonna have, obviously know the rules, but I would make sure to tell your contractors, to making sure that they always contact the building department, because if we have to come in there later, it's gonna be a problem.
Okay. Very good. And then, so what I need to understand is it okay for me to sign the lease?
Again, I'm no attorney, but anyone want to talk to me, I would say you sign the lease contingent on the city's final approval. I mean, and I'm a lawyer, but
As far as the
that's
licensure, Carolyn doesn't have anything to do with the licensure for the medical marijuana. That will fall back on the safety director. Carolyn, we all keep away, Carolyn, you may not.
I know, yeah.
She's
been very helpful.
Yeah, she's great. She's the one that help you through the process of the deal.
But I would talk to your attorney on the lease and put some contingency, you're signing, but again, if the state and or the city doesn't approve, then you can get out of the lease, but that's, I'm not a lawyer, that's my opinion, it's just, person, not even there.
Understood. Okay. Well, very good. I very much appreciate, the approval.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So Dr. Professor got that.
Are you related to Bob
Bob Severs, and younger brother.
then? Okay, yeah, Bob was on Lake Shore.
Right, when you allow.
Yeah.
Bob talked about before when he was, moved in over here and he built a little barn and stuff, so.
Okay, very good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, we have approval for the minutes of January 7th.
Make motion approved.
Second.
Nick, okay. Okay, roll call, Mrs. Rivera,
Yes.
Ms. Thomas,
Yes.
Mr. Rupertino,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
and Mr. Lee Parker.
Abstain. Unfortunately.
All know you would want it.
Thanks, everybody.
You gotta adjourn.
Oh,
You gotta do it.
meeting adjourned.
Wow, you missed one meeting, you can't forget the whole thing. You know, we start, hey, you remember our last year, you start to get like that guy.
No, I always forget the
Hey,
word.
you start to get like the last year.
I heard you, I heard you said.
You should, you know what, to really get on top, you should say, yes, it's been advertised, you should say that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Now I got it.